Nobody move.
Nobody gets hurt.
I'm Nick G.
I'm Mike D.
And this is Good Cop, Bad Cop. I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Pop McCann Whiskey, smoothest drink in the land. Grab your bottle today at popsmcannwhiskey.com. Also like to thank Friends of Martina White. Visit votemartina.com for more information about the work Martina has been doing as state representative of Pennsylvania. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Beyond Creative. If you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, visit beyondocreative.com or call 267-362-WEB1 to discuss your project. And our title sponsor, AR Law, arjusticenow.com. We fight so you don't have to. Adams Renzi Law. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring, hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile, and carpet. You get military and first responders discount. That is Morrow Flooring. You can go to goodcopbadcoppodcast.com. Click on his link for more details. All right, welcome back. Another great show, Good Cop, Bad Cop. I'm laughing because I'm getting old. I have to slide out my damn phone like an old man to read. This is terrible. Just talking about old hairs. I'm Nick Gerace.
I'm Mike D.
Another great episode of Good Cop, Bad Cop. We have a pretty interesting one today. We have Bekah Slider, the confidence coach, motivational speaker, host of the Courage to Live podcast. She's a very interesting story. She used to be a pastor to internet fame, and we'll let her tell her story. We'll talk about it. How you doing today, Bekah?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So first off, I got to ask a question. How did you meet Becca?
All right, so I saw her story on Facebook, and I started looking into her. She's a very attractive woman. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I'm like, okay, it's actually different. Usually it's the other way around. People come from like OnlyFans into being a pastor or something like that. And this happens to be the other way. I was like, pretty interesting. Let's have her on the show. And
okay, well,
see what makes her tick.
So she's an OnlyFans.
Get a story. I believe you're on OnlyFans, correct?
Yes, I'm an OnlyFans creator, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there you go.
For how long now?
Creator.
Oh, only 4 months, and I'm already in the top 1%, so.
Wow.
That's not, I know people, that's extremely difficult to do.
It's
extremely difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she has that angle coming from pastor to
Okay.
I mean, like I said, man, I've heard of it the other way around. I've never
Right.
really heard of it this way around.
So the hook, she's got the hook.
Yeah, she's got the hook, man.
Okay.
And I guess there's a lot of guys that are kind of into that thing, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. I get a variety of people. There will be a handful that definitely ask about that. It's like a turn on for them, like, oh my God, you were a pastor, like you were like this good girl, and now you're doing naughty.
Yeah, it's like the teacher fetish.
Yeah.
It's the closest thing an older man can get to a teacher.
Librarian.
Right.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And then you have I'm a mom. So like the MILF aspect of it, I think too. But then what's wild, I think, for people is it's a lot of creators don't have kind of a story, a brand, and like a way to see them outside of OnlyFans, like an actual person and who their personality more than just what they are on OnlyFans. And so I have that aspect because I present still as a coach, as a speaker, and a lot of comments that I'll get. People will come in and they're like, you're so different than most creators. And the things that they'll comment on will just be my intelligence, my emotional intelligence, the things I speak about, the motivation. And I have people in my DMs that I'm basically life coaching in my DMs at times. And they're like, this is the last place I thought I'd get good life advice. And I can't help it because that's who I am naturally. So if people are struggling or they're saying things that are misaligned with the truth of their value and worth, like I'm going to combat that because I'm a natural encourager. So I'm going to do that no matter where I am in my life, including on OnlyFans.
I think that might be part of the allure to her. You would never expect her to be on OnlyFans. She has that look like, she's a lawyer, a professional, obviously very intelligent. You can talk to her about almost about anything. And, that kind of turns men on. And I would just want to know to tell us about how you started. You're a pastor. What was your
start in childhood? Where'd you come from?
Yeah. So I grew up definitely conservative Christian, and I'm number 2 of 5 children. And my parents are still married to this day. The home environment was, even though we went to a non-denominational church, it was more progressive, more liberal. The home environment was very authoritative, very controlling, very suffocating. And so grew up in that, gave my life to Jesus when I was 8 years old, felt very strongly connected to God and Christianity and the Bible. And then around my teenage years was like, walked away from it. Unfortunately, I ended up, because I had just had no self-esteem. Didn't have it from society, but then also didn't have it in my home life. So I ended up in some really toxic relationships. And through that trauma, ended up back at church. And that was because I felt like a nobody. I felt like I had nothing. It was like, where do I go from here? I don't know what to do. I just want to feel safe. I want to feel valued. I want to feel important. And the church provided me that at that time. But right away, quickly, right, you get back into the programming, and I met a guy who became my husband, now my ex-husband, but became my husband. And he was in the military, got out and decided he's like, I want to be in ministry. And I'm like, but ended up both of us in ministry together for many years.
So it's through marriage to this guy, you become a pastor's wife?
Yeah. First a pastor's wife and then a pastor. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And at what point are you saying to yourself, OnlyFans is a little bit more attractive than being
Well, it didn't. It's so funny. Oh, it's not how it happened. It was actually about 6 years ago when I started giving myself permission to question all of my beliefs, all the staples of Christianity, all the things that held everything together, which is really scary.
Are you still married at this time?
Yeah, still married. I'm sorry, still married at this time. And I ended up, after really giving myself permission to question things, I ended up stepping down from ministry. I ended up walking away from the church completely. And then I ended up taking a whole year of my life to deconstruct Christianity and my faith at a core level, which was, it sounds, I think if people haven't been in it and they don't really like identify as that was my whole reality, that was my whole life, that was my whole community for many, many years, like 2 decades. And when you have that happening and then you're deconstructing, you're walking away, it's like I'm coming off a cruise ship into the ocean. I wasn't like attaching myself to some other new religious beliefs that could make me feel safe. I thought I was going to go to hell for a year straight, like real tangible. That was a real fear of mine. And so OnlyFans, that wasn't even a thought at the time.
Is that no longer a fear of yours, hell?
No, it is no longer a fear. I do not subscribe to that belief whatsoever.
So the construct of the church and the tiers of heaven, purgatory, if you even believe in that, that's completely gone with you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I still believe actually in some form of an afterlife. I still believe we are souls in bodies. I still believe I'm still spiritual, and I still believe in a form of a higher power, maybe energetic power. I'm not sure how to describe it. And I'm not saying.
So let me ask, when it goes sideways, what do you do?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When I'm struggling and going sideways, there's a couple things that I do. One, I go back to my deeper knowing and like feeling into my intuition and being led by that wisdom. And I feel very connected to that still. And I still do, in a sense, pray. But it's a very interesting aspect because I don't feel like I'm praying to a God with an agenda, right? For me, the Christian God has an agenda. And so for me, I feel like I'm praying to almost like universal force, a universal spirit, a universal energy, that the only agenda is being there to support and love.
What made you question all this to begin with? Like, why?
What made me question it?
It's a pretty extreme flip-flop from,
it's very,
you walked away from it as a teenager, you came back to it when you're struggling, and then again, you walk away from it, even though you took a year of deep reflection.
Yeah.
What questions, like, why do you start doing this?
Yeah. So one of the very first questions years before I deconstructed that I never could get a solid commitment to in myself was the idea that homosexuality was a sin right there with murder. It just seems so wild to me, right? Like how murder, you're harming people. Homosexuality, it's like, okay, I've seen much healthier couples who are homosexual than even like heterosexual. So it's just like that piece of it was very confusing. And when I started giving myself permission to question that, and then I started just questioning the core beliefs, not so much the dogma of like the specifics of the history of it, more of, okay, I am in Christianity.
So are you doing this openly or just like undercover?
It was more.
Obviously, the congregation is looking to you and your husband, correct?
Yeah, well, I stepped down before this started happening. I started feeling a lot of shifts, and I stepped down. So the deconstruction, all the deep questioning, didn't happen until after.
Gotcha. Now, are you being shunned or looked at in your community, or have you kind of stepped away from them also? Did you lose friends over this?
At this, yeah.
Initially.
Yeah. Absolutely. I lost everyone.
Mm-hmm.
This is what, like.
You jumped into the ocean.
Yeah. And there
Yeah,
was
without a life raft, with nothing.
it's so wild because people will view people who deconstruct as like, oh, well, they just had trauma or with the church, or they just want permission to sin freely and not feel bad about it. They have like all these excuses.
Like me. Like, so when I pull away from the church for an hour a day, I want to do everything debauchery, then come back and ask for forgiveness. I mean, that's what Catholics do. Catholics are allowed to sin as long as before they die they ask for forgiveness. That's how we're. Is that not true?
Somewhat.
They don't want us to sin, but if we do,
Right.
as long as we say we're sorry, dear Lord, forgive
Like-
us, and we're not dead, we win.
That extreme Hitler on his deathbed could say, "Oh, I saw the light, and I'm sorry."
He's allowed.
Forgive.
He's allowed. That's according to the Catholic
Right.
Church. If you now, they're not going to condone your actions along the way, and you'll be, I guess, thrown out to the sea with no life raft. But when the boat comes by and the guy goes to throw you a raft, you say you're not waiting for Jesus. Jesus just showed up in the form of a boat and a life raft.
Yeah. I love that parable anyway. I still subscribe to Jesus. He's my Lord and Savior.
You're
put that
allowed.
out there.
You're allowed. Yeah.
I find her story fascinating.
Yeah. Well, what I find fascinating is that in her reflection, she then becomes free.
Right. And you know what? Normally the people we have here are vets or, even a doctor. Like I said, it's normally the other way around. They have trauma. They find God. Their life gets better. They're healing, right? That's pretty much everyone we've talked to so far.
Yes.
And
So,
with mental
but
health.
she seems pretty well healed.
Yeah, it's the opposite. She walked away from God and now she's healing.
She looks peaceful.
Yeah, she looks great.
I mean, besides attractive, she looks like
a good
good.
aura.
She's good.
Yes.
She's good. She's good with things, and that's a nice. It wears well.
Were you always like that?
So if you would have asked me back in the time that I was a Christian and in ministry, if I felt free or if I felt like I was a person who struggled with a lot of fear, I would have told you I felt free. I would have told you that I didn't really struggle with fear or shame. But the reality is just I was very disconnected to it and to what freedom really felt and looked like. And so when we get back to my deconstruction and the questions that I asked myself, it was staple beliefs of, are these beliefs supportive? Are they actually, as Christians perceive them to be, very loving based beliefs, or are they fear-based beliefs that are masked in love? And so the conclusion that I came to was that the staple of Christianity, all of the pillars of them, are really fear-based beliefs masked in love. So you talk about, you were born a sinner. Well, that's not a love-based belief. That's a fear-based belief. You're born bad. You're born evil, in need of saving. And I cannot subscribe to that. I do not believe that. I believe we are born, actually, our nature is love. And the reason our nature is love, and we can almost prove that scientifically, is because it feels so natural and right and good when we are loving, when we are living in a state of love. So that's an example. And then even just hell itself is such a tormenting fear-based thought. Just the fact that I was tormented for a year thinking, if I'm wrong, I'm going to hell. I'm going to go to hell. It doesn't matter how long I've served the Lord, how long how much money I gave, good God, to the church and the mission, how much good I did. If I decide now that I don't believe in this, I go to hell. Like, that's a fear-based belief. So for me, it just came down to the fact that the staple beliefs of Christianity were not supportive. They did not feel like they were loving. They felt like they were fear-based to me. And so I unsubscribed from it. And also, I will sit here with all full authenticity and say that I have no agenda to try to pull other people away from Christianity or the church or any religion they're in. That's the beauty of it, is like, I've made people.
One of my next questions.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, that was one of my next questions. You're a life coach. Are you anti-religion? Do you kind of pull people away from it?
Not at all. Not at all.
So,
if I have any agenda, it's to point people back to themselves, like their deeper knowing, their guidance system. As not only as Christians, but as people in general, we're, from a young age, we are very much told all of the answers are outside of you. They're outside of you in school. They're outside of you in society. They're outside of you with authority. They're outside of you in religion. They're outside of you. Go find the answers. And yet the most peace-driven answers I've ever found are within me. It's like a deep knowing, a deep intuition, a deep wisdom. And so for me, I point people back to themselves. For some people, they may need and they may feel very led to be in Christianity, and it may be a very supportive thing for their life. I'm not going to pull them away from that. I only ask them to ask questions to get to the deeper place within them, whatever that looks like. Some people are going to choose to be Buddhist. I am totally fine with all that. I respect everybody's right to choose. It's just like being a parent. I don't have an agenda for my kids. Their journey is their journey. I'm going to be there and I'm going to support them. I'm going to give them guidance. I can tell them from my perspective what might be more ideal, but the reality is that I cannot walk their journey for them, and I do not know best at the end of the day. I do not.
Okay.
You're helping them work
Yeah.
within their own, let's just say gut, or their own inner, like my gut tells me right now that I'm getting hungry. So what I do is I go eat, and I'm just, simplicity.
Mhm.
Or my gut tells me that I should probably go out to Arizona because there's somebody out there that
Right.
needs me. So that's what it's saying. Logic would say, you guys have there's a lot of hot water, or, a lot of damage in the relationship. You should stay home and self-reflect. But my gut keeps calling me out to Arizona right now, which, of course, there's a different reason I'm saying that. He knows it.
Yeah.
But the point is, you as my life coach would tell me, whatever makes you feel right now, whatever gives you some sense of peace and equanimity or calmness, I should probably pursue.
Yeah, I think that there's something to really be said about being in integrity with yourself. And we are not taught or learn how to self-trust. This is one of the
I like that.
problems we have.
See how she phrased that?
Yeah.
The integrity with yourself.
Yeah,
I
because
like that.
think
I'm
about
gonna steal that.
what's the number one regret of the dying? That they lived a life for everyone else, for everyone's expectations.
That's my thank you. That's what I tell people who tell me, I did this for my kids. I did this for my parents. I did this for my brother. No, do things for you, and have others join in if they want to be part of it. I love it, because thank you for saying that again. Life's lessons.
Right.
I did this for my kids. I know people who worked 2-3 jobs their whole lives to put their kids through college, to put their kids through sports, to pay their bills, to pay their parents' bills, which, by the way, are all good things, all good things. But to sacrifice so much of yourself, and then when you call your kid up and you need him to help you change a flat tire, he's busy.
Yeah.
Low energy, Mike down.
I get that. By the way, that's never happened to me. But
Yeah.
I know
I get
guys.
what you're saying.
I know guys that their family turned on them for something, like in the newspaper, something didn't go right for someone's life. But meanwhile, the kid and the parent, and I love this man, wonderful human. His name is Nick. Another Nick, right? I only know 5 Nicks. 3 of them are good. Anyway, but the point is, he sacrificed for his kids, got them in college, 2 or 3 of them, medical school, whatever it was, 2-3 jobs, working. His teeth are falling out. He doesn't take care of himself, right? And his kids turned their back on him because someone wrote a bad article about him in the newspaper once, and he ended up facing a misdemeanor charge, whatever it was. And the bottom line is, all his sacrifice, and he thought all along he was taking money from buying paper for his school, and taking the money and funneling it into baseball tickets for the children at the school.
Mm.
Not a good thing, but he was taking the kids to baseball instead of buying paper off the rack that they could put down the toilet, because he misappropriated the funds. So he gets arrested and charged, and he says, I was sending kids to baseball games. I was doing something positive with them. So he gets blown up in the newspaper about being a bad criminal, mafia, which he's not at all, by the way, at all, like not even close. And now his family turns his back on him, and he's still paying the kids.
Yeah.
I said, you cut that fucking kids, you cut him off. Of course he wouldn't, the whole bit, I said, I'm getting so upset about this because I spoke to this guy in the last 3 months or 4 months. I said, how's it going with your son out in Missouri, college, paid cash, the whole thing? He goes, we speak, but very little. I said, how's his school bill? He goes, I paid the whole thing off.
College?
Yeah. Now, you paid your son's college off. He don't speak to you.
So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on good deeds versus bad deeds, and the universe, and what does that mean towards the end of your life?
Oh, like clarifying good deeds, like how much credit they are to you or whatnot.
No, just like, everyone has an outlook in life on what you did. Like Mike was just saying, that guy, he did some bad and this and that. Now that you don't have a religious belief system, good or bad, how do you outweigh that? I mean, could someone be their whole life, and what happens when they die is just they had a life and it's over, and their energy goes somewhere else? Like, what are you? How do you process that now?
Yeah, it's interesting. I do think that our souls are outside of us. So like when we die, so like it continues on. And I don't think there's separate places that our souls go. I think it's funny, if you do research, you look into research on all the people who have near-death experiences, they're all the same.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter if they were Christian, if they were Buddhist, if they were atheist, they all have a very similar experience where there's like light and it feels like home and they don't want to come back from it.
Safe. They feel safe.
They feel safe. And so I absolutely feel like no matter what, your soul goes on. I think the hell is what you experienced here on earth by living a life.
I believe that. I think a lot of hell is right here on earth. I really do. And that you said, a friend of mine's had several heart attacks, massive, dead, flatlined and everything. And he watched them operate on him.
Yeah.
A friend of mine's watched them operate on him.
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
And I just a friend of mine. In fact, we could probably get him on a show. He's
he's
right here in PA Jersey border.
Yeah.
He says he watched. I get shaken by this.
Yeah, I would like to talk to him about that.
I get shaken.
Interesting.
When I was a young man, I had a traumatic experience. I lost a girlfriend. Right? Traumatic for a young man, a young guy. You lose your girlfriend.
She
Oh my
broke
God!
up with you?
What am I gonna do? Yeah, she broke up with me. I was like, she didn't want to be with a guy. I don't blame her. And
Especially a crooked cop.
I wasn't crooked yet.
She knew.
So anyway, but I had an out-of-body experience. I never told you.
Over breakup?
Well, it wasn't really over the breakup. It was over myself. I was self-reflecting, and I was asking for help. I'm getting a little emotional now. I can't. It's tough. And I was asking for help, and I was calling out in Jesus' name, "Come help me." And I was in the corner of the room in the air over there, and I was laying on my bed over here, but I was over there.
You could see yourself.
I was lifted off my bed, and he was up there calling me to come to him. And I was lifted off my bed, and I fucking feel weird right now because people know I'm
Yeah, I never heard
I'm
you
a
talk
straight
like
shooter.
this.
I was lifted off my bed, heading towards Jesus, and I said,
Yeah.
I was 22 years old.
Yeah. Well, and
And then,
Look what I
and
did
then
to
you
my
still go
look
on to
what
do
I
all
did to
that
my
shit.
everything.
You figured a good story would come out of that.
You-
You went the other way.
Yeah, but I knew where to go when I needed help. I knew internally I knew where to go when I needed help. And that could be a problem, just so you know. Yeah, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about right now. Because when you have the comfort, it's like a guy goes to the gym for 10 years. He stops for 2-3 years. He's wandering, and then all of a sudden he keeps saying to himself, but I know where to go if I want to get back on track.
sure.
So that's how I lived my life. I know where to go if I want to get
Right.
back on track. And that's really, so let me just be fully disclose, full exposure. If I were to do that, of course, I wouldn't have the trouble I had. Maybe something worse, right? But having that backup was bad for me because it made me feel like I could always reach out for that and just be bad for. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does make sense. Whereas I don't have that anymore. Like I don't feel like I need that anymore because the reality is I know when and how I feel best. And when and how I feel best is a state of peace and a state of love. People ask me all the time, they're like, how do you operate now? Like the only peace is through Jesus. People will say that, and like
Right.
they'll say things like, well, I'll have people say, you look so much happier. What is it with like, you look lighter, and it's hard to explain, but the reality is what happened is I de-shamed. I detached from all the shame associated with everything I ever had, including my sexuality, which that leads to OnlyFans. I detached from the fear-based agendas. I detached from things that I didn't even know were unsupportive and actually like toxic to me. And I've made peace with myself at a deep level. And I desire to live in a state of peace, to be a person I love better now than I ever loved before. I treat people better. I am less judgmental now. And I was not a very judgmental Christian, to be honest.
Right.
Go back and look at my preachings even. I was a very progressive and loving Christian. However, I love people better now. I judge less now. And you know why? It's because I love myself better now. I judge myself less now.
Yeah, she hit that.
Do you have any preachings online that we could look at
Probably.
if somebody wanted to? So it is online. That'd be pretty interesting, actually.
So she hit that chord with you and me when she said, I stopped being ashamed or I let go of any shame or whatever that key, when you went like this, like that, because I lived in a lot of shame. I think you would, if you know a little bit about my situation, I went to prison for a long time. And Nick, of course, was an honorable guy. He did the job right. I'm not saying he's the hero, But he did his job correctly. He went to work every day with a conscience, a clear conscience.
Yeah.
Right.
Like my head on a
I
pillow,
went,
it's
yeah,
like,
and I went to
fine.
bed worked every day in fear and anxiety, and I lived that life for a long time. So it's become part of my physical chemical makeup, right? Because it affects you physically when you live like that. And so people go, you have ADD. No, I don't. It's just I've been
I was telling him that yesterday.
I've been hypersensitive, and I'm not a narcissist.
I know you're not.
You were corrected on that as well.
I know you're not. Listen, you actually care about people, and you go out of your way to help.
Yeah, yeah.
Whether or not you do that for your own self, I'm not sure, but I don't think you're a narcissist.
Oh, come on. Well, I do it for my own self. It makes me feel good. Makes me feel good to help others. So that's why that's part of why I do it. Plus I care for people. So it's a combination. But on to the other note is like the fear-based thing, getting rid of the shame. You imagine you're a proud New York City police officer, but you're lying the whole time. And
you're living a lie.
Yeah, I'm living a lie. And then when you go to prison and you get exposed, and you have to cleanse your soul and put your head on the chopping block. I had to and take responsibility for all my actions.
Right.
When that happens, you're free again, and the shame should go away. It doesn't always, but it's a process. But that became a point with me where I became involved in the documentary stuff, whatever, but which was not very cleansing either. The documentary, the experience was, but I didn't feel clean because now I was rejudged by people again because it came into the public light. But in the end, for me, it gave me freedom because you can open my closet. If you find anything in my closet that hasn't been exposed, we can talk about it because I really don't. You can't shame the shameless, right? I've been shamed. I've been shamed enough. I'm done. So, and the fact that you get the experience to free yourself from the bondage of, let's say, Christianity, if that be the case, and now you become a sexual.
It's interesting because she got to almost the same place, but a whole completely different.
Yeah, I know. It's incredible. She went through the Christian experience, and
I got a question for you because the way you are a little bit. Have you taken any psychedelics at all?
I took you're talking about just for any type of awakening experience?
DMT, yeah.
No.
Okay. All right, because the way you're talking, it's almost as if the people I know that have done the DMT.
Well, she's in the life coach stuff, and she probably wouldn't be opposed to that with a controlled environment where you're. I mean, yeah. So there's a lot of that whole awakening going on, and I think it comes from a lot from the internet because people start to see the rest of the world and the waves that we live on a wave, right? Would you be in the wave program? It's one big wave.
Yeah.
Like
the ebbs and flows.
It's just a wave. Yeah. We're waves. Does that make sense to you? That we're waves.
Absolutely.
See, and you know what? You're talking to a guy who would tell you you're so full of shit. I'd turn the channel I'd turn the channel if I heard this. I wouldn't listen to it. But here I am saying this is the way it is today. That's our mind is opening.
10 years ago, I would have told you this is nonsense. I wouldn't even be here
10,
talking about it.
2.
I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Martina White. Friends of Martina White can visit votemartina.com for more information about the work Martina's been doing as a state representative in Pennsylvania. And let me tell you, Mike, she's a big supporter of police. She backs the blue. She's a proven fighter for families, women, everybody.
Is she a patriot? Is she America first?
Absolutely. She encompasses, the American spirit for sure. We have a big population of listeners in Northeast Philadelphia, Southeast Pennsylvania, which would be her area. So you can check her out.
Has she been in? I'm not familiar with the Philly district. Is she new to the scene, or is she, looking for re-election?
She'll be up for re-election in a couple years, but she's been around for a while. She has a proven track record.
Okay.
You can check her out. Her record really speaks for itself, especially when it comes to fighting for everyday citizens and backing the blue.
It's nice to have someone back in the blue. I mean, these officers are out there risking their lives every day, and with little pay and little appreciation in today's environment, it's been very difficult. And as you know, being a Philadelphia guy,
unfortunately, that's something that's not common. Should be. It used to be a time where both sides of the aisle agreed on law enforcement, and that's something that's completely lacking. But with Martina White, she steps up to the plate, always has our backs, and does what's right.
Great. Good luck with Martina.
Yeah, you can get more information at votemartina.com. I'd like to thank our title sponsor of the show, Adams Renzi Law, AR Law. They can be found at arjusticenow.com. And just to let you know, I know both of them personally. Christy, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, total sweetheart, absolute pit bull in the courtroom. And Nick Renzi, he's a South Philadelphia guy, true and true, neighborhood man. He's for the people. He helps people out down in South Philly, all around Philadelphia.
Their office is in South Philly itself?
Yes, their office is in right around South Philly, Center City, right on the border.
Do they handle
there.
a lot of criminal cases?
They handle everything, absolutely.
Are they on call 24/7 for someone who might take a pinch somewhere?
Why, you might be taking a pinch?
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, wherever you show up, you got to be ready.
Well, you can keep their card on. Go to their website and call them up.
Will they give me a deal since they're sponsors of the show?
You might get a percentage off. I'll have to talk to her.
Okay. Yeah.
If you used them a few years ago, you might have not have gotten 14 years.
Well, that's another story.
Another story for another time.
That's right.
Again, AR Law, check them out. arjusticenow.com. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Beyond.0. In today's world, your business is practically invisible if you're not online. With so many options for marketing your business, it's easy to get confused. That's where Beyond.0 Creative steps in. They have the expertise to help you with all of your marketing needs. Need a website that wows visitors? They'll build it. Want to reach more customers with Google Ads? They'll make it happen. They'll even manage your social media so you can focus on what you do best. Beyond.0 Creative is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and Google Premier Partner. They're the real deal. If you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, visit beyondocreative.com. That's BIONDOCREATIVE.com or call 267-362-WEB1, Web 1, to discuss your project now. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring, hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile, and carpet, military first responder discount. Tommy, we had him as a guest on a podcast. You can get your flooring done by a real American hero.
Yeah, and he's on time and on budget.
Yes, he is. He will beat any price. Bring a quote, an estimate, whatever you have. Tommy will beat it. 100% guaranteed. You have our backing on that one.
And he'll be there himself.
Absolutely. You can get a real American hero do your flooring for you.
I do want to know, I'm sure the listeners want to know, how do you find yourself to OnlyFans?
Yeah, that's a great question.
You had your awakening, and you're shameless now. You have no shame. You got rid of it. So that opens you up sexually?
That was a process. So even when I talk about this shame, it's not like I don't ever struggle with shame anymore. It still comes. I'm just very hyper aware of it now because it's not my norm to live in. And I know that I catch it very quickly. And then I just start asking myself really helpful questions. But as far as the move to OnlyFans, so it's been years. I've only done OnlyFans for 4 months, and it's been years since I deconstructed. So this was not a quick shift. Like,
right.
I'm out of Christianity. Let me start getting on the internet. What happened was one of the first areas, I thought deconstructing Christianity, that would be it. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I got to the end of that. That was really hard. But what happened was a domino effect, because when you deconstruct the core of your identity and everything that makes you you, which was me. Not every Christian can say that, but that was me. I loved Jesus like nobody's business. I was part of the worship team. I was the one on my knees. I was the one praying for people left and right and left and right. And it was real as this was not something that I was like, oh, she never really was saved. Bitch, I was saved more than the majority of people that go to church. Okay, side note. Sorry, I got a little preachy there. So when I walked away from that, one of the first things that happened, it was a domino effect, was other areas of my life started getting impacted, which of course I look back now and I'm like, of course it did. It's the core of everything I was. And one of the areas was my sexuality. So before I married my husband at the time, we were married 21 years, by the way, 21-year marriage. And
you don't even look old enough to be married 21 years.
I'm 43.
Damn. Amen. Okay.
So
those are early 30s.
Thank you. So we got married at 21, very young, but you get married in Christian communities often because you can't have sex outside of marriage. And so I definitely had to get married so I wasn't living in sin. So move that along. But he knew at that time that I was bisexual because I told him I had already been with several women. But then when you get back in the Christian church, it was like, nope, you can't do this. This is not acceptable. So you close that off. You shove it in a box. You put it to the side. Never really goes away because those thoughts still come, but it's what I did. Once I deconstructed, I was like, oh, it's like safe to like women now. It's safe to enjoy that side of my life now that I've literally compartmentalized this on. So he also deconstructed after me, though, slowly after me, and still, we're in different places now. But He was like,
Your husband deconstructed also? He's not in the church anymore?
correct. He walked away from ministry.
Is he bi or gay?
No, he's not.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure. The way you're talking about it, I thought maybe he went that way.
All right. So good questions. You know, you're allowed.
Oh yeah, you're not going to bend me with any questions. Totally fine. So we kind of started opening up to the idea of like, what if we, enjoyed a woman together, that type of thing. So that it was baby steps into that, and then that turned into swinging for like a year, and then that turned into an open marriage for like a year. And so all this time, go ahead.
After the church, right?
Oh yeah, this is after this. This isn't during the time.
You guys are still together.
Oh yeah, we're still together. Although this is an interesting point to make. Before the whole sexuality stuff started happening, where we were talking about this, doing this, moving into that, I had told him about 6 months prior to that I had been really considering no longer being married. And I was always very communicative about this and continued to talk to him about it the whole way. So then we took this dive into sexual exploration.
Okay, well, that's no. By the way, that's a normal course of events. If you want to stay with a man, or you don't want to lose the relationship, I mean, you just open the discussion. I mean, that's an honorable position to be in, because a lot of people sneak and not talk about it, and at least you open the door to, hey, listen, I like a little strange, and I don't mean that to be disrespectful. That's sounds like it is, but I like a little excitement. I like to step it up.
I'm so proud
I've had
of you,
those conversations.
How responsible and adult you've been.
Well, I'm still me. But the point is that that's a responsible conversation that people have. Well, listen, honey, let's mix it up. It's 21 years, the same, tap it out the same, the same brick print here. Let's have some. I admire that, because I've had those discussions in my life too.
That was actually
each night you want some chicken every now and then.
All right, let's steak, chicken.
Yeah. You'll be disappointed to know that was actually not the conversation. The conversation wasn't because of that. It was because what I was seeing. This is separate. We always had a decent sexual life, actually. We were both Scorpios.
Okay.
What was happening was I started realizing more of who I was, and it was so different than him in a way that didn't feel aligned anymore. And what I mean by that, here's a good way to put it. The parts of us that work so well together became a Band-Aid for the parts of us that didn't. And we got married as children.
Okay.
Children.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A 21-year-old, you're considered an adult by the government, but the reality is your brain, emotionally and mentally, you're still a child. We got married as children, and then we had children right away.
I know.
So it just didn't feel aligned. I didn't want anyone else. I just didn't want to be married anymore. So I was very honest about that. Didn't say I wanted divorce. I was just being honest about where I was at. Then a few months later, we're moving into the whole open sexual stuff. So it was almost like a distraction from what I was feeling, because it was like, oh, this is new and exciting and fun. Let's do this. So we did that for a while, but every 6 months probably, I kept having conversations with him and letting him know, I don't know where I stand still with wanting to be married. And I don't want anyone else. I don't have a desire to be with anyone else like that romantic.
That's what men struggle with, right? Like when a woman's rejecting them, why? And you wouldn't say you were rejecting me. You were just a different person at this point. I'm not rejecting you.
No, yeah.
Not seeking. You aren't seeking physical contact with a male, let's say, or maybe you even suggest not even female contact. Would that be accurate?
Yeah. It was because even the people who we'd have some fun with, I didn't have any like romantic, oh, I want to be with this person. And I didn't want any relationship. I just wanted to be alone. That sounds crazy, but also our relationship, when you look at it and you kind of put a magnifying glass to our marriage, his energy was anxious attachment style. And if you're familiar with that, it feels very suffocating, very needy, you're my everything. My entire identity is wrapped up in you. And for 21 years, I dealt with that, right? And it was just like, I can't, it was suffocating to me when my number one value in life has always been freedom. So
let me be me. Let me be me without you. And maybe it'll be me with you, but not right now. I just want to be me. I want to be Becca. I want to be just, I don't want to be Becca and Michael. Or, what's his name?
Is Slider your last name for real? Or
it is my married last name. Yeah, I'll never change it though.
It's a good.
I mean,
it's
for OnlyFans, that's like.
I thought you.
Yeah.
I thought that was like your.
I mean,
name.
it's almost that's
okay. It worked out well.
That's deep.
All right, it slid right in there.
Slid in the DM of Slider. Well,
All right, so
I'm trying to be nice, but we can really get a little
we'll
greasy
be
here.
very
You know?
nice here.
You're good.
So you're having threesomes, you're checking out chicks, you're doing all this stuff. When do you be like, yeah, I can monetize this?
Oh, I had already.
Because I've been checked out OnlyFans, and there's a reason
Oh, that's
for
fine.
that. So I haven't looked at it.
I'm not allowed on it.
You know,
I had a close friend that was on it. I'm not allowed on it.
I don't have an agenda to like pull people into my OnlyFans. People feel like they want to go awesome. I don't market like that.
Yeah, no.
So to your question, I told him that I wanted a divorce for sure. And it was October of 23. So October of 23 was when I told him I want a divorce. And we did the process of uncoupling where you stay in the same home, because we're still very, very polite to each other and very kind. And we treat each other still to this day with a lot of respect. We're very good co-parents. We stayed in the same home for a long time and lived more as roommates in separate bedrooms, and continued that process. Still hadn't started OnlyFans. So what's happening here, though, is I have a lot of sexual energy and a high libido. I love being sexually expressive. I love dressing sexy, and I'm unapologetic about this. However, I also value excellent sexual experiences with people I care for and have like an intelligent, emotional connection to. And that's just not really a place I'm at in my life where I'm having that a lot, because I'm also not actively seeking it. So basically I'm saying I'm under, and OnlyFans was an expressive outlet for me to be like, oh my God, I could get on here and have some fun and like use my sexual creative expression and enjoy that and not be, having sex with people left and right in order to feel like that fulfillment of that side of me. So that's how it came about. And then I got into it and I was like, I love it. Like, it's so fun for me. It is so fun. And
it's actually, I love to see the expression.
Yeah,
I'm starting to giggle a little bit, because who doesn't like good sex?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I mean, I'm 64 and I still like it.
Yeah. I hope I die having sex. I would like to die.
My life in the last 4 years.
My goal is to die having an orgasm. That would be great.
I've almost died doing it. You don't want to.
I mean, I listen, when
I finished copulating and it's like, should I call 911? And I go, I'm not sure. but keep your hand by the phone. It's been my response more than once, just so you know.
Especially at your age.
Yes, exactly.
So are you doing this with partners? Or are you all solo?
We're all solo, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big turn on,
Oh, really?
Because you don't have to compete or say his schwanz is too big, his is too small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's still, or her
Yeah.
libido is too short. This way they basically directly focus on what you do. And by the way, men like to see women. Men love to see women masturbate.
Absolutely. Do you
I love to masturbate, so it's a win-win.
Yeah, I mean,
did you take requests?
Oh yeah, I do custom.
Is that like extra money? You got to pay more.
Oh yeah, you want a custom? We're starting in the hundreds, a few $100.
Okay.
Oh, it makes sense.
Yeah, it's great. I wish I could do this.
I wish I could masturbate.
Yeah, me too, man. I'd make a ton of money.
Even
at 46, I'd be cranking it out. Yeah. Do you have a lot of people subscribed?
Yeah, so it fluctuates, because a lot of times what I do is I give people a 7-day free trial, because I think that's fair to let people
come in.
do they like this creator. Every creator is very different, so I feel like just to give them a little taste of
Makes sense.
And then they can stay and actually pay like $15 a month. $15 a month, though, it's like you're getting access to me in the DMs. Every post that I make, a lot of them are more safe for work. I don't have a crazy amount of like naked stuff on the wall, like the feed. Mm-hmm. But I do voice notes, because a lot of people love my voice, especially like when I'm talking sultry. It's like super.
Yeah, you got the smoky voice.
Yeah, I got like a smoky voice. So like, anyway, they love that. So I do voice notes a lot. And even in the DMs, I chat with people because I love the relational aspect of it. That's what I was talking about earlier, where I cannot tell you the amount of times I have had men say to me in the DMs, texting me and saying, I can't believe I'm telling you this, because I've never told anyone this in my life. That is,
you have that type of personality, and if you're being real with people on there, and you're not just doing it for the money, I can see why people would share that with you.
Yeah, right.
She's a good person.
Yeah. If you feel you're not being duped, that the person that you interact with really genuinely is interested. I mean, some guys they go broke, and mean,
Let's
and
be
I hope
honest.
you would never let somebody get that crazy, you know, because people have gotten that crazy.
So this is the equivalent of the couch room. This is 2025 couch room. Guys used to do this 20, 30 years ago in the strip club.
Right.
I've seen it a lot. Guys would come in and they got to a point where they knew a girl and they wouldn't even go to the couch dance room anymore. They would just sit down and talk to them,
Right.
almost like their therapist
Right.
or their life coach. Not much different anymore.
Yeah,
It's just,
because
it's
they
the
weren't
modern
getting
version
the attention
of
or
it. At home,
the
yeah, people weren't listening to them or
Yeah.
seeing them.
right.
You know,
Right.
their significant other didn't think about
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And then they come here
Like-
and someone's interested in what they have to say.
Right.
And obviously you're providing that.
Yeah, and everybody comes for different reasons, I think, too. Some people, they don't want to talk to me. They just want to come, they want to check me out, or they want to see my content, and that's fine. Like, to everyone, I'm a different experience, and I'm okay with that. But to the ones who actually want more of a relational aspect, and the reality is that we have a chronic loneliness issue in this culture.
Yeah. And
Right.
yeah, that's
So
and that's sad, to be honest with you.
what's the crazy someone asked you to do?
Oh my God. Someone asked me recently, which I declined, of course. These are so interesting. Someone asked me recently if I would you guys are the first ones to hear this. I've not told anyone this.
Okay.
Take
Here
my
we go.
phone with me all day long, and every time I burped or farted, to record it and to add it all together into a video and to send it to
Oh,
them.
Jesus. They paid
Yeah.
big for that,
How
did they?
much?
Oh, you didn't do it. She didn't do
I
it.
did offer it as a price because I was like, everything has a price. I don't want to do this. And I
Yeah.
like
Out there.
I said,
Send them my way.
it didn't end up happening because of how I priced it, which is on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I priced
I
it for
mean,
$2,000.
That's a big. That's cheap.
$2,000?
That's cheap. That cheap bastard. He
So
should
I
have paid.
know-
Should have paid a lot more for that.
He said other creators have done that for him for $25 a minute, and I was like,
Okay, well, do that, math. If you do it 24 hours,
Yeah.
yeah,
that's a lot of
like,
money.
I just can't even. I don't even know when I'm about to.
No,
half the time.
I knew a girl that would, and I believe her. She used to get paid $500 to kick this dude in his nuts.
Oh, easily.
3 or 4
Are you
times.
kidding me?
That has
I-
been
I
requested as
didn't,
well.
I didn't touch him.
That's
I just
$1,000 for a 10-minute
kicked
kick.
him in his nuts 3 times,
Yeah.
$500, and
Yeah.
she left.
It's more than
twice a
that
month.
today. It's more than that today.
So
It's
I
like, don't
won't. I won't.
Is he like guys doing it? I'll go kick him in the balls.
no, they won't let the
$250.
guys do it. No.
I won't do it. There are things that people have like that. Obviously, that's in person, so like that's not OnlyFans related.
Right.
But on a dating app, I had some guy ask me that, and I was like, I won't do it. I can't.
Kick him in the
I am
nuts.
very empathic and like harm. Even though it turns them on, to me it feels like harm, and it feels like humiliation, and like I just cringe.
Right.
Like I can't do it, and I'm not saying it's wrong. Everybody has their own kinks. I don't.
No, that's a choice. Yeah,
For me,
I mean, I like a little nipple clamp now and then.
Nah, I'm not in that. And the dirty talk makes me laugh.
oh, see, I
Does it?
love
Oh,
dirty
God.
talk. I'm really good at it too.
I laugh at it, dude. I get.
But I was going to tell you, I have a
dude.
confession to make. I was the first person that they said had cell phone sex. Okay.
In a prison?
Well, it was in prison, and I had
Okay.
phone sex, and they called it cell phone sex. All right, because I had a woman that would send me money to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
38,000. I shouldn't say the number.
No, you shouldn't. I'm sure the statute of limitations is up
Yeah,
at this point.
Did you sign an NDA? I don't think so.
yeah. They actually moved me from that prison because I had too much money in my commissary.
Really? I
Yeah.
wonder why. Was it
Well,
was it a guy? You could be honest.
Oh, it was a woman.
I know one
It
of
was
the,
a woman. She would like the slave master program.
So the mafia, the Dixie Mafia, one of the big scams was the head guy. He's in prison. He was scamming back in the 80s. He put an ad out that he's a lonely boy, and he can't really tell people that he's gay, and he would get someone to call him, but it was a prison phone. I don't know how he worked that out.
Yeah.
And then he would tell him, "I'm really in prison. I'm scared. I can't let them know I'm gay." And then he'd get them to send him money, and he was doing this like to 100 people a week. He made millions of dollars
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
prison,
Yeah.
scamming people because back then they weren't going to say, "Hey, I got scammed because I'm a
No,
gay man."
they're
It
not
was-
going to say
yeah,
anything.
they were embarrassed by it, so they couldn't tell. It wasn't until they started looking into like, how's this dude have all this money in his commissary? They looked into it, and
Yeah,
got
and mine.
broken. But it was years. I think it was like over a decade of him doing this.
Yeah. Well,
It's
once you
crazy.
get good at it,
So
once you get good at it, it's
I'm
easy.
saying,
Right?
like, it sounds like he might have been,
Might have been
on that
me.
scam a
No,
little
I
bit.
didn't scam anybody. By the way, no, it wasn't that. It was an
okay,
agreement.
I believe you.
I had an agreement. We had an agreement, and that's what she liked.
Right. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think people value money differently, and people want to spend their money on different things.
I mean, she was lonely, and I was.
I'm not judging. Do we tell and we don't judge?
I'm just saying. I'm just.
We do judge.
You get annoyed that the woman sent me money and didn't send you
Yeah,
money?
actually,
Is that
a little
what
bit,
is that what's getting? Yeah, he's getting
kind of
he's
getting a little
getting,
pissed
yeah,
off.
you got a little annoyed here. While I was away, sitting there doing nothing. You
Yeah.
thought I was just jerking
Listen.
off? Well, I was earning.
I got bought in a bachelor auction once for a couple $100.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
All right.
By a doctor.
All right. Well,
He was-
did
he was
she?
a nice guy.
What a nice fella.
Nah, she was a nice chick.
Yeah. And how'd that work out?
It wasn't my speed. I tried to, but
Nothing.
doctor, yeah, it just
Didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
She was nice though.
Well, there you go.
There it
See?
is.
We've all had our little fans experience here.
All
and
right,
there.
so how do our listeners find you?
Yeah.
Where they
So
go?
the easiest way to find me is on social, Facebook or Instagram. That's probably the easiest. It's my name spelled exactly as you see it. I do not believe there's another one out there spelled that way, so should be pretty easy to find me. And then OnlyFans,
Becah Slider.
because I'm not anonymous. I literally use my real name on OnlyFans as well. It was very
And I probably shouldn't ask this. Are you physically where? State?
like where I live. I live in Ohio.
Yeah.
I'm not currently there
Okay.
right now, but I live in Ohio.
Okay. Well, that's fair. I don't know if I'm allowed to. That
Yeah,
may be a
yeah,
little
yeah.
too personal. I
Yeah,
don't know.
do rock on. What do you go find Bekah Slider in Ohio?
Some of these they're good with the internet.
yeah,
Let me
yeah,
tell
Okay,
you.
I have
Let me tell you. Yeah. Well, we go to Ohio. I go to Warren, Ohio. My friend lives out by Warren and Euclid and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I don't go to Ohio.
in fact, I am going to Ohio in April, but that's not for sliders.
No. Well, listen, Becca, it's been great.
Yeah, it's been really.
Anything else you want to share before we go?
First of all, let me just say this: very intelligent,
Absolutely.
very well spoken, sexy looking, and
Gorgeous.
and very informative. So
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah, you wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't know she was on OnlyFans, and I think that's the appeal.
Yeah,
She's like the everyday, a lawyer, a doctor,
Correct. Yes.
a mom, and then you find out she's doing that on the side. You're like, oh, damn.
Yeah, right.
I thought that was interesting, especially from the pastor side, and she's hot. So
Yeah.
here we are.
There you go. We appreciate. Thanks for exposing.
Yeah. I appreciate you
the
guys
whole
having me
story.
here. And I think you asked me like what's the last thing I would say. I think that people are, well, I know this for a fact. Our brains, we're on autopilot, reactive mode living by the time we're 35 years old. Okay. So that means your life is going to pretty much stay the same pattern for the rest of your life if you don't actually start asking better questions. And so the best journey, in my opinion, of being a human is getting to rediscover who you are, getting to reclaim that life of yours that was underneath all the programming, whatever that programming looks like, and getting to redefine how it gets to go in the future. And that's what I would encourage every human to do.
Nice.
Way to end the show.
Fantastic. Well, Becca, thank you. Another great episode of Good Cop, Bad Cop. You can go to goodcopbadcoppodcast.com. Check out our socials. Please like, subscribe. Every star, every comment helps us out. Thanks again. Have a good one.
And Bekah Slider.
Yeah, Bekah Slider. Check her out.
Thank you.
This episode is sponsored by AR Law, PA State Rep Martina White, Biondo Creative, Morrow Flooring, and Pops McCann Whiskey.